While everyone is focused on Iowa, there's actually a bigger story. The British defense minister says we as a world are in a pre-war footing. That's a little bit disturbing to hear a defense minister say that. This morning, well, it was afternoon their time in the Red Sea, a Houthi-backed group attacked more ships, hitting a cargo ship with a cruise missile. The United States, the UK, and other groups had bombed the Houthi the other day. The Houthis' response was to redouble their efforts. They fired a missile at a ship yesterday. They hit a ship this morning, our time, late this afternoon. It is causing more problems. We're not exactly sure the nature of the ship that was hit at this time, but it's significant that they've now escalated. It appears it could have been a ship hauling vehicles. Volvo, by the way, has said it is going to change its shipping routes to avoid the Red Sea. The Qatari prime minister says that the Red Sea attacks have changed the way we view international trade, how we view international shipping, and how interconnected we are from east to west. He is not happy with what has happened, and the Qataris have been siding with the U.S. against Iran. Now, that's the first thing. This morning, our time, another ship was hit by a Houthi missile. We bombed them the other day, and their missile attacks escalated, but it's not just them. For the first time, Iran is acknowledging it launched missiles at U.S. positions. It also hit places in Syria. Iran is taking direct credit for this. There were several explosions yesterday near the U.S. consulate in Erbil, Iraq. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps took responsibility, saying it was targeting the headquarters of spies and anti-Iranian terrorist gatherings in parts of the region. 4 people were killed, 6 were injured in the attack. There were no coalition forces or American forces killed in the bombing. No U.S. facilities were impacted. There was no damage to that infrastructure. There were also missiles launched into Syria from Iran. This shows a couple of things. I don't know that the attacks actually were intended to hit the consulate. It could have been a warning shot. Why a warning shot? Because Iran has never fired cruise missiles of this range before. So by firing these missiles, they came from down towards Kuwait. They were in Iranian territory in the southern part of the country. They went to northern Iraq. They made it to Syria in some cases. This is a big sign from Iran that they've got missile capabilities that perhaps the rest of the world did not know. And they aimed close to, but not at the consulate. There is some dispute. Did they aim to hit the consulate or not? I don't think we should presume that they intended to hit the consulate, because that would have been a real act of war. But by hitting near the consulate, what they're doing is saying, hey, guys, guess what capabilities we have, what we are capable of doing. And if they can make it that far, the question is, could they make it to Israel? This is a dramatic escalation of what's been happening. And, you know, our media in this country, they don't want to play Donald Trump's speech from last night in Iowa, but they don't want to cover this either. The defense minister in Great Britain says that Britain is facing wars in Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea in 5 years, but there's no plan to actually grow the military there. In a major speech at Lancaster House in London, he urged Britain and its allies to ramp up defense spending, insisting the era of the peace dividend is over. In 5 years' time, we could be looking at multiple theaters involving Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. He said the Ukraine war has put the future of the world order at stake. China is watching to see what the West does. Iran is enriching uranium, building nuclear weapons. North Korea is threatening to expand its arsenal. And yet there are no plans in Britain to cut or to expand the military, and he thinks that needs to happen. In fact, we do need to be growing the military at this point. These are unsteady times, and don't look now, but North Korea is intending to amend their constitution by fiat to declare South Korea a hostile power. The North Korean leader, we talked about this a couple of months ago when it happened, he said he was no longer going to seek peace with South Korea. No one was exactly sure how to read that at the time, but now they are placing in their constitution a declaration that South Korea is a hostile power. This looks like a war footing for North Korea. So you have the North Koreans moving to a war footing. You have Iran launching ballistic missiles and seeking to build their nuclear weapons. Have Russia in Ukraine. The Taiwanese elected an anti-China leader the other day over the weekend. You've got the Chinese moving towards a war footing with Taiwan. Meanwhile, the Chinese missile program, ballistic missile program, and nuclear missile program seems to be garbage. So much corruption. They're having a big military purge there. Y'all, this is actually rather serious. And we as a people in the United States have kind of taken we're going to step back from the world stage. This is what happens when the Americans take a step back. And the rest of the world is seeing this and licking their chops thinking they can replace us on the world stage as the dominant player. And the problem is all the countries want to do that don't share our values, which is going to be worse for us. We don't want to spend the money. We don't want to take the time. We think it's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of energy. We'd like to withdraw. We'd like to become isolationist. The rest of the world is hoping that we do. Think about this. When you turn on the news today, I've got the news channels on. They're all talking about the Iowa caucuses. They're talking about the implications. They're talking about Trump. They're not talking about Iran now has the capability to fire long-range missiles and was able to hit very close to the U.S. consulate in Erbil. They're not talking about Iran hitting a hospital in Syria. They're not talking about the Iranian capabilities now reach Israel. They're not talking about the Houthi now directly attacking and hitting ships after we tried to stop them. They're not talking about the weak response of Joe Biden. They're not talking about the anemic response of Western powers trying not to escalate it. They're so scared of escalating it, they're escalating it. The fear of Western leaders is escalating the situation in the Middle East. And now you've got a lot of the foreign policy experts who've studied North Korea saying what's happening in North Korea is a dangerous sign. We could have a multi-front war on our hands. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're not talking about it because they think that it might help Donald Trump, because when he was president, we didn't have these sorts of problems. See, this is the problem that Democrats have. As much as Donald Trump was a chaos candidate, as both parties call him, and a lot of people got anxiety from the chaos, what's going to give people more anxiety? Donald Trump, who they thought was going to start World War III, or World War III when Joe Biden is president? What do you think is going to be a bigger deal? A lot of the way the media chooses to cover these things is because of Donald Trump. I mean, I played you the Rachel Maddow story that they didn't want to trigger their audience on MSNBC by playing a speech from Donald Trump. They claimed it was because of dishonesty, yet we know that's not true because of all the people they put on MSNBC. They're not concerned with truth. They're concerned with not alienating their audience who lives in dread of Donald Trump and the anxiety that comes from that. But what's going to give the American public more anxiety, Donald Trump or World War III? And that's not starting under Donald Trump. That's starting under Joe Biden, who claims some level of normalcy. These are profoundly destabilizing times. When Joe Biden got elected, he promised us a return to normalcy. Remember that? It was a return to normalcy if we elected Joe Biden. And what did we get? Certainly not a return to normalcy. We got no such thing. We've gotten chaos. all sorts of chaos. We've gotten a world headed to war. And we've got now the United States and Western powers launching missiles at the Houthi to deter them, and Iran firing missiles back with capabilities much of the world did not know, revealing that they might actually be a stronger power than we thought. That didn't happen when Donald Trump was president.